The loss of a mammoth container ship baffles investigators.
One of the biggest questions we had was, why was this ship so close to the eye of the hurricane?
The search for answers takes them to the bottom of the ocean.
Wait. What's that?
Honestly, couldn't believe what we were seeing.
350!
Why did an experienced crew
Damn it!
end up on a deadly course?
Bring the abandoned ship!
And did something happen to tip them over the edge?
Let me slip it! I'm going down! No, you're not! Come on! Go!
You know they're going through something. You know they're in pain.
Help me! You gotta get out!
They're in trouble. And they were.
Hurricane Alley in the North Atlantic is famous for its storms. And right now, the crew of the 241-meter container ship El Faro has already changed course to avoid a big one, Tropical Storm Joaquin. In command of the ship and all 32 crew members on board is Captain Michael Davidson.
Right now it's an easterly swell.
We're just gonna have to watch it. The weather pattern is crazy erratic.
The captain, he had over 24 years at sea. He'd sailed in the North Atlantic and the Alaskan runs. He was experienced with heavy weather, and he knew this ship.
El Faro is about halfway into a 2.5-day weekly run from Jacksonville, Florida to San Juan, Puerto Rico. The massive ship is carrying 11,000 tons of cargo, 391 shipping containers on deck, and 505 tractor trailers and cars in her holds. Jack Hearn is a former captain of the El Faro. He knows the ship and worked with many of her crew.
But at that point, she was roughly 40 years old and still in good condition. The steel was thick, the framing was close, and she was a powerfully built ship and powerfully engineered ship. Excellent in rough weather.
But that's about to be put to the test. Less than 12 hours into El Faro's journey, the National Hurricane Center upgrades Joaquin to a full Category 1 hurricane.
By 2 o'clock, so on your watch, you should be south of this monster.
Yeah.
It's more important than ever to avoid Joaquin. So the captains charted a course to keep a safe distance from the eye of the storm.
The captain thought that his speed and the course would place him further to the south of the hurricane. It'll be a rough night, but ultimately the storm would still be further to the north of him.
Well, I'm gonna watch a little television, I think.
Second mate and ship's navigator Danielle Randolph will stand watch overnight. The 34-year-old bridge officer is one of only 2 women on board. She's just returned from a vacation visiting her mother.
Right from kindergarten on, she wanted to work on boats, as she put it. She wanted to be out to sea. She wanted to be a sailor. She wanted to go on a big ship and loved it. And to her, the ocean was home.
Woo! It's gonna be a bumpy one.
Yeah.
The plan to outrun the storm makes sense. El Faro's main engine can deliver up to 30,000 horsepower.
This was a vessel that was capable of doing up to 20 knots. And the captain was counting on his speed as part of his, options for keeping away or clear of the storm.
But by 1 in the morning, they're hitting the edges of the storm, and it's taking a toll on the crew's nerves.
You'll feel the bow of the ship in a heavy wave. As the storm starts to build, you'll feel the lurch and the suddenness of shock. It stops everything, and it's stunning, and you wonder if it's going to come right through.
Then it gets worse.
Please be advised, Hurricane Joaquin has been upgraded to a Category 3 storm.
In less than 24 hours, Joaquin has grown from a Category 1 to a powerful Category 3 hurricane. Near its center, it's producing sustained winds of 185 kilometers an hour.
Oh my God.
Hurricane expert David Nolan tracked the storm's unusual behavior.
Joaquin did something we call rapid intensification, which is a large increase in strength over a relatively short period of time.
As the wind picks up, so does the sea. Waves begin reaching heights of 8 meters or more, with extreme waves almost twice that high.
It's a sea state that most people never get to see or experience in any way whatsoever.
It's even worse at night because you can't see anything, and all you're doing is feeling the motion of the ship and feeling and hearing the waves hit you.
Whoa!
It actually does become frightening.
I'm gonna give the captain a call and see if he wants to come up.
In these worsening conditions, the second mate fears their present course is no longer safe.
This is the captain.
Captain, it isn't looking good up here.
She wants to change their heading to steer even farther away from the hurricane.
For my track line, I've got 0200. Alter course straight south and turn.
Her alternate course would take them through a channel between Cuba and the Bahamas, sheltering them from the worst of the storm.
No, this is looking good. Stay with the course as we planned it.
Okay.
And the captain says, no, I think we're going to be okay. From the information I'm looking at, we're going to continue on.
He said to run it!
On shore, meteorologists are tracking the storm closely. It's becoming clear Joaquin is not only getting stronger, it's no longer following the projected course.
Most of the computer model forecasts originally took Joaquin to the north. I think that's what a lot of us expected to do. The fact that it continued to move southwest was really a surprise.
On board, Danielle has finished her shift and sends a worried email to her mother.
She said, I'm not sure if you'd been watching the weather, but we're in a hurricane. And for her to say that, it was unusual because she never wanted to worry me. She wrote love to everyone. She never, ever signed her emails like that.
At 4 a.m., Chief Mate Steve Schultz is standing watch on the bridge, and able seaman Frank Ham is at the helm. The intensity of the storm has him on edge.
Captain, I knew by 1 a.m. the storm was coming in. Wow, this is every day in Alaska. This is what it's like.
The captain calls on his long experience in Alaska to reassure him.
If the captain is worried or the captain is anxious, then everybody's going to be anxious and everybody's going to be worried. So realistically and professionally, you're trying to put on a brave face throughout everything. Okay? As the situation develops, we're going to stay in control, we're going to stay calm.
But something isn't right. The ship has started heeling over to one side. The crew and the captain can feel it.
We're setting, sir. Going like this.
She's being heeled over to that starboard side because all this wind and all the waves are now acting on her port side, and all these containers, all this surface that the wind and the waves can push against, they're pushing us over onto our starboard side. So we've got this wind heel that's going on.
In the enormous 8-meter seas, the main engine is having trouble keeping up. The ship is slowing down, and the wind is blowing them off course.
We're pounding a bit because we're going more easterly. We need to let her get up to speed, get a little more on our course.
It's an alarming development. The captain is depending on their speed to help keep them out of the worst of the storm.
The vessel drops speed over a period of time that's pretty significant, and that indicates that they're really near the center of the storm, which is not the place you want to be.
You can actually feel the pressure changing as you get closer to the center of a storm. Your ears will pop.
Hard right rudder. Hard right.
It's a struggle just to hold the ship on course. and things are about to get much worse.
Bridge, Captain.
Captain, we've got flooding in number 3.
Go down to 3 hole. Start the pumps right now.
Yes, sir.
The captain is concerned. He has to be concerned because not only is he in bad weather and what looks to be an increasingly worse situation, now he's got flooding in his number 3 hold.
An hour before dawn, in the jaws of a hurricane, the El Faro is in trouble. Despite having altered course, the massive container ship El Faro is closer than expected to Hurricane Joaquin. Now, they're facing a crisis. The ship is taking on water.
The first thing is that where does the water come from and how do we stop it from coming in? That's the first priority. Chief Mate, when he goes down to have a look, water is coming in through an open scuttle. Water is running down through this and it's now down in the hold.
The scuttle is a passageway leading from a deck open to the weather down into the ship's hold. Its hatch should be closed tight, but it's come open.
Captain, it's the chief.
Looks like an open scuttle.
Somehow that scuttle leaked, vibrated open, or was pounded open in rough weather and started taking in water.
With wind blowing the ship to starboard, water is pooling over the open scuttle and being funneled into a hold packed with cars and tractor trailers. The pumps can't keep up with the flooding, and it's too dangerous for the crew to try and shut the hatch.
Right next to that location is a very large hull opening that is actually built for cargo transfer and a truck to drive right through it. So you can imagine the door as large as a tractor trailer and open to the sea with water coming in, chest high. Cargo could move onto you and crush you. It's a critical situation, and you've got to fix it.
Captain Davidson comes up with a plan. He'll use the hurricane itself to help stop the flooding.
I'm gonna turn the ship. Give us a port lift so we get a better look at it.
The captain decided we're going to turn the ship so that the wind is now on the other side, on our starboard side, to try and induce more of a port list to dry out the water on the starboard side, and we're going to fix this.
Okay, I'm gonna start the turn. Left 20.
Left 20.
Just before 6 in the morning, the captain turns the El Faro into heavy, oncoming seas.
Steer 350.
350.
It takes a few minutes to turn a big, slow-moving ship, because in those heavy seas and swells, the ship isn't moving like a race car. The ship's going to take much harder rolls, and then you're going to turn and head into these high seas. So it's a very dangerous maneuver, but it's all you can do.
350.
Okay, we've got a nice port list.
As the wind pushes the ship over onto her port side, the water drains off the open hatch and the crew can seal it shut. It should stop the flooding from getting any worse. But now there's a new problem. Down in the engine room, alarms are going off.
Damn it! I think we just lost the plan.
At the worst possible time, the ship's main engine sputters and shuts down.
The sound of losing your main engines is not a sound that you want to hear.
Manual pump.
The engineers need to restore the oil pressure if they are to have any hope of restarting the engine.
The engine room is the heart, liver, and lungs of the ship. Once the engine room is quiet, everything else on the ship ceases to operate.
Without power, El Faro is at the mercy of the hurricane's enormous waves. The situation is critical.
The ship is rolling, and it's pitching, and the engineers are down there scrambling around. We got to do this. We got to get the engine going.
I need that oil pressure back up now.
With a dead ship in a violent storm, starting the engine is their only hope to survive.
You're in a fight with a storm, and you need that propulsion system to move that ship away from the dangers and deal with each oncoming wave.
No matter what they do, the engineers can't get the engine back online.
The El Faro is now starting to drift. She's starting to turn because the waves are hitting her now, and she's starting to drift side on. And this is the one position no ship wants to be on. Beam on, exposed along her entire length. There's 100-knot winds and seas of over 35 feet.
El Faro could capsize any moment. The captain has no choice but to activate the automated Mayday signal.
All right, let's push Latin.
Distress button's been activated.
It's the last signal ever received from El Faro.
The ship is now beam on to the seas. We're rolling, we're uncontrollably rolling.
Bring the abandoned ship.
The general alarm has been sounded. Prepare everything to get ready to get off. Everything is breaking loose.
You okay?
Yeah, you good?
Yeah.
There you go, focus.
You know they're going through something. You know that they're in trouble. And they were.
Go, go, go.
Hours later, Hurricane Joaquin slams into the Bahamas, leaving devastation in its path. Search and rescue receive El Faro's distress signal, but the raging storm hinders the search. As hope dwindles, friends and families of the missing crew hold vigil.
We never talked about him never coming home from a ship.
It's just been a lot of agony, but then we all started pooling all our hope and our love together. It's all we're running on now, is just hope.
We were glued to the TV like everyone else, hoping for good news. Is there a chance that there could be a survivor? You hang on hope like everyone else.
7 days after El Faro's last signal, the last shreds of hope are gone. Search and rescue find floating debris strewn over 580 square kilometers. Containers, a life ring, a crushed lifeboat, but no sign of any survivors. All 33 crew on the El Faro are presumed lost at sea. It's the deadliest U.S. maritime disaster in almost 40 years.
She always said to me, if anything happens to me out at sea, Mom, it's okay. I died doing what I want to do.
That is part of our investigation. We are looking at
The U.S. Coast Guard and the National Transportation Safety Board launch an investigation to find out what happened and why.
We know that there are reports that this vessel has sunk in deep water.
It was a U.S. flag vessel that the Coast Guard oversees, and their U.S. lives, the mariners, and a large number, 33 lost. There was a definite sincere desire to figure out what happened and to not spare any expense.
Finding answers won't be easy. The wreck is lost in waters almost 5 kilometers deep. Five days after the sinking of the El Faro, investigators begin searching for answers. Brian Young is lead investigator for the National Transportation Safety Board.
El Faro was one of the biggest cases I think NTSB has ever dealt with, especially in the marine mode. And we hadn't lost an American ship and the entire crew in decades.
Captain Jason Neubauer of the U.S. Coast Guard is also assigned to the case.
From a Coast Guard standpoint, we look at all the aspects, like also accountability beyond just what caused the accident. We're looking at performance of all the people, including the mariners, the marine inspectors that looked at the ship. That's our charge.
So debris was found here and here. So this is what we're working with.
30 days after the sinking, the wreck is located by Navy sonar. Somewhere among the scattered debris is the most vital piece of evidence, the voyage data recorder. Its microphones capture conversations on the ship's bridge, and its sensors record valuable performance data. The information's then fed to a watertight capsule mounted on top of the bridge. Finding it won't be easy. The VDR is equipped with a locator beacon, but it's not working. And El Faro's twisted wreckage is scattered across 2 square kilometers. Investigators scan the wreckage by using cameras mounted on an ROV, but after weeks of searching, there's no sign of the VDR.
We tried to put together the pieces of what may have possibly happened, and it was very difficult, especially without the VDR, to have any idea as to what the crew experienced in the last few hours.
Why did a ship receiving up-to-the-minute weather data end up in such a deadly position?
El Faro's there, and this is the eye of the storm.
How did they end up 20 miles from the eye of a hurricane?
That's the million-dollar question.
We knew the captain had made a phone call to the company saying that he was in the hurricane, the ship was in trouble. So what we tried to do was speak with the company representative had received the phone call to see if we can get any more details on that phone call.
So the captain said the ship was flooding and that it was in trouble.
They had some water coming into the ship and that they had lost propulsion.
Thanks for coming by.
But the captain didn't know what set off their engine problems or why they couldn't restart it. Looking for insights, investigators inspect El Faro's sister ship, the El Yunque.
Investigating a ship underwater that is virtually unreachable is a challenge in itself. And we were lucky to have a very similar design vessel, El Yunque, to see if there was any maintenance issues.
It was about the same age, and we wanted to see what the layout of the vessel was, and also were there any problem areas from a watertight integrity standpoint.
It doesn't take them long to find a troubling clue.
Take a look at this.
Each vehicle is supposed to be secured directly to fasteners welded to the deck. But aboard El Yunque, cars are attached to long chains that run across the width of the cargo hold. It's much less secure.
On El Faro, with the increased weather and the wet deck, and the cars only secured to a long chain, it would have been easier for the cars to break free of their lashings and move about the cargo hold, which was subject to immense forces.
Loose cargo can make a ship unstable, especially in a violent storm. The only way to know if this is what happened on El Faro is to go back to the wreckage and find the voyage data recorder.
The question was, where was the voyage data recorder?
Andy Bowen is a principal engineer at the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution. Leaders in deep-sea exploration, their ship, the Atlantis, is equipped with high-definition sonar and an ROV that can hunt for small objects at great depth.
It was a particularly challenging objective.
Any luck yet?
El Faro lies very deep in the ocean, over 4,000 meters down, because looking for something the size of a large can of coffee, which is about what the VDR is, amongst thousands of tons of ship is a little bit like a needle in a haystack.
To make matters worse, the wreck has been torn apart. The mast, and with it the VDR, is still missing.
The bridge was not on the top of the ship where you expected it to be.
Wait. What's that?
They actually found the bridge several hundred meters from the wreckage. And unfortunately, the mast, which would normally have been attached to the top of the bridge, had been separated. And that's where the VDR was.
Is that anything?
No.
So if we could find the mast, which was a large object, it was quite likely that we might find the voyage data recorder connected to it. That was sort of the ideal scenario for us.
So does that bring us to the end of this section?
Not quite.
Investigators chart the location of every piece of debris and use the pattern to target their search.
How's it going?
If they've guessed wrong, the entire expedition could end in failure. NTSB investigator Sean Payne was part of the search team.
At that point, we were basically working off of adrenaline.
Okay, I'm gonna get some sleep.
I had this feeling that if we didn't find it in either my watch or the next watch, if it wasn't in that area, that our hunch that this thing was laid out in a wreckage debris field that made sense like any other accident was incorrect. So there was a lot of pressure going into that night.
A few hours into his shift, something catches his eye.
Oh my God, go back.
Honestly, couldn't believe what we were seeing when it came out of the darkness of the sea was finally the shape of the mast.
And even better, a few cables were still holding the VDR to the base.
That's it.
The Navy salvage team is brought back to recover the capsule. Its wires are entangled and need special equipment to cut them free. Investigators may finally have the evidence they need to explain why the El Faro sank, killing all 33 people on board, but only if the data survived. Nearly a year after the sinking of El Faro, investigators finally have their hands on the ship's voyage data recorder. But it's been at the bottom of the ocean for so long, they have no idea if the data has survived.
Whether or not you have an accident that occurs with 1 fatality or an accident that occurs with 33 fatalities, from my point of view in the laboratory, we're going to go as far as we can to unveil how something like this could have unfolded.
They immediately discover a sign the data is intact. The electronics are clean and dry. At NTSB headquarters in Washington, investigators begin the mammoth task of analyzing the conversations captured on the bridge while the disaster was actually unfolding.
The VDR actually recorded 26 hours of the El Faro's final voyage, started somewhere off the coast of Florida, continued on till about 7:40 a.m. when the ship sank off the coast of the Bahamas.
It's the longest recording the NTSB has ever had to analyze.
How's it coming?
Slow progress, but we're getting there.
Have a seat.
The investigators listen for clues, hoping to piece together what led to the disaster.
A lot of people talk about the last words, but really it's the words that are spoken well before that that often reveal what happened in an accident.
Very difficult to listen to the entire 26 hours of audio. And the hardest part is we knew how that ending was going to happen, whereas we knew they didn't know that.
As the recording begins, the crew is already tracking the developing storm.
Right now it's an easterly swell.
We're just gonna have to watch it. The weather pattern is crazy erratic.
Yeah.
We want to know if the ship was seaworthy. Was there a problem with the watertight integrity of the vessel? And also, was the crew, did they competently handle the situation?
Bridge, Captain.
They zero in on the captain's attempts to deal with flooding in cargo hold number 3.
Go down to 3 hold. Start the pumps right now.
Yes, sir.
The captain was focusing on trying to close the starboard scuttle that had been verified to be a source of flooding by the crew.
Captain, it's the chief.
Looks like an open scuttle.
Okay, I'm gonna turn the ship around. Give us a port list. See if we can get a better look at it.
So in the bridge, you can hear that they made a decision to turn the vessel to port.
We've got a nice port list.
So the crew gained access to the scuttle on the starboard side and is able to close it. Therefore, no more water is entering the cargo hold via the scuttle.
The captain's maneuver solved one problem, but as investigators listen, they discover the scuttle wasn't the only source of the flooding.
We know from the VDR that they experienced severe flooding even after closing that starboard scuttle.
Captain, I think the water level's rising. Something hit the fire main, got it ruptured. I saw cars bobbing around.
Play that again.
Something hit the fire main, got it ruptured.
Investigators already know cars weren't secured properly on El Faro's sister ship. Now they hear how dangerous that can be.
There's a good possibility that the emergency fire main, which was in hold 3, was damaged by floating vehicles and some other debris in that area.
The fire suppression system uses seawater that is drawn into the ship through pipes.
If a car had struck the incoming pipe at the bottom of the ship that allows seawater to enter into the piping system, there's no way to stop it.
The uncontrolled flooding in cargo hold number 3 was deadly serious. But it doesn't explain what happened next.
Damn it!
I think we just lost the plant.
The main engine shut down.
I need that backup now.
And despite the crew's frantic efforts, they couldn't restart it.
Without engines, she's dead in the water.
But why did they lose power? And why couldn't they get it back?
Investigators suspect something catastrophic happened when the captain turned the ship.
Damn it!
The question is, what was it?
Stairs 350.
Investigators want to know why El Faro lost her main engine at the worst possible time, in the middle of a hurricane.
I think we just lost the plant.
If the main engine continued to operate, the ship would have been able to maneuver and put the head of the ship into the wind and possibly been able to maneuver out of harm's way.
It's got to be something about the turn. They lose power right after the turn. Bridge, Captain.
On the VDR, they hear the crew discussing a problem with low pressure in the engine's lube oil system.
We're gonna get that boiler back up in a second. We're just getting the lube oil pressure up.
I need that oil pressure back up now.
Lube oil is essential. Without it, the ship's enormous main engine won't run. And as investigators study the system, they notice a quirk in the design that could explain the failure.
We had the plans of the internal parts of the lube oil sump, which is the tank that provides the oil to lubricate the main turbine.
Investigators notice the valve that feeds lube oil to the engine is offset to one side. The lopsided design means if the ship lists to port by more than 15 degrees, the flow of oil to the main engine is cut off. The timing of the disaster supports the theory. 16 minutes after the captain turned the ship, El Faro began listing by as much as 18 degrees onto her port side,
Not liking that lift.
with deadly results.
At that point, the turbine would shut down automatically.
The port list was likely more extreme than the captain was expecting. The reason why takes investigators back to the problem that made the captain turn the ship in the first place. the flooding in the hold.
Now that there's water in the hold, you have an effect called free surface effect. And this happens when volumes of water are able to shift from side to side in an open space. It adds more roll. It adds increasing power to the ship's rolling. Cars have come loose. That's adding to the weight that's moving around.
The shifting weight has tragic consequences. It helps push the ship farther to port, which not only triggers the engine shutdown, it also makes it impossible to restart.
We believe that the crew was not aware of the limitations of the engine, being exposed to such a heavy port list, and in terms of the engine room was the worst case scenario. The engineers needed the ship to be on an even keel to get the oil pressure back, but the captain needed the engine in order to get the ship to an even keel.
Without engines, it's only a matter of time before the wind and waves of Hurricane Joaquin capsized the ship, taking with her the lives of all 33 people on board. But there's one final mystery. El Faro somehow ended up just 35 kilometers from the eye of the storm. Investigators need to know why.
One of the biggest questions we had was why was this ship so close to the eye of the hurricane? Why he decided to continue on his course?
Part of the explanation could be the unusual nature of Hurricane Joaquin. Not only did it strengthen more quickly than predicted, it also changed direction. After first heading north, it turned to the southwest, straight into El Faro's path. Investigators need to know if that information ever reached the crew. Bit by bit, the conversations on the bridge suggest a tragic answer.
That is odd. Hey, Brian?
The transcripts show the crew knew the storm had changed direction, but the captain didn't.
Look at this.
What do you got?
So right there, I can tell they have the latest weather. The captain is not looking at it.
Oh.
Please be advised, Hurricane Joaquin has been upgraded to a Category 3 storm.
During the second mate's watch, she had a satellite radio on, and she had updates from SAT-C, which is a satellite signal that's sent from the National Weather Service. So the crew was receiving multiple updated weather reports.
That brings us right into the storm at 4 a.m.
They're aware that they are going to be sailing very close to the hurricane.
Captain, it isn't looking good up here.
They hear the second mate calling the captain with an urgent request to steer farther away from the storm.
For my track line, I've got 0200. Alter course straight south and turn.
And when the second mate called the captain, she suggested a course change to go directly south to escape the worst part of the weather.
But the captain was confident his course was the right one.
No, this is looking good. Stay with the course as we planned it.
Okay. He said to run it.
We do know that she was given an order to run the original course, which put them close to the eye of the storm.
The second mate tried to warn the captain of the danger. Why didn't he listen to his crew? Investigators examining the loss of the El Faro need to know why the captain didn't realize his ship was heading for the eye of a hurricane.
Information is vital. It's vital to any decision making. You can only make a decision based on as accurate information as you can get.
The El Faro had received weather updates from a variety of sources. But investigators now suspect the captain was only looking at one: a subscription service that uses easy-to-read graphics.
It's very easy to understand. It's a very graphic depiction of the weather system relative to the ship's position. And that was only emailed to the captain's email address.
Although easier to read than satellite reports, it's updated less frequently. By the time it's emailed to the captain, the forecast is already 6 hours old. It still shows Joaquin north of their planned route.
He thinks the storm is here, but it's really here.
The weather reports that he was looking at that indicated his position was to the better side of the storm, whereas in reality, the ship was in the worst quadrant of the hurricane.
Brian, the crew knew they were in trouble.
The captain didn't listen.
It's likely neither captain nor crew realized he was relying on a forecast that was dangerously out of date.
In the end, it is the captain's decision. When they were faced with the captain's answer, they followed orders.
Set to run it!
I'm sure, knowing Danielle, she was infuriated because she knew that that was not a good option. You're a captain, you're not God. Listen to your crew members.
For the captain, it's important to count down suggestions and concerns that were coming from members of his officers.
2 years after the sinking, investigators issue their final report into the tragedy.
There was a ripple effect of problems on the El Faro: flooding, propulsion, and storm. They call this sometimes an error chain, where there's a chain of events that are linked. And if any one of those things had not happened, possibly they would have survived the storm.
This is the captain.
Captain, it isn't looking good up here.
It begins with the captain's mistaken decision to ignore his crew and stay on his course.
No, this is looking good. Stay with the course as we planned it.
Okay. He's set to run it!
Once El Faro was caught in the storm, she began to flood. The attempt to fix it
I'm gonna turn the ship. Give us a port list so we get a better look at it.
caused a port list that was so extreme, it cut off the oil supply and shut down the main engine.
I think we just lost the plant.
It was impossible to restart.
Damn it!
By the time they realize what had happened, it's already too late.
Bring the abandoned ship.
In those conditions, there's no way to launch one of the lifeboats that they had. The crew knew at that point their odds of survivability were almost zero.
The final moments of the recording are heart-wrenching.
It was extremely emotional to listen to the VDR while watching the clock ticking down to the end.
Help me! You're okay. Come on. Don't freeze up.
Jump! Jump! You good?
Yeah.
There you go, focus.
You gotta get up. Help me! You gotta snap out of it. I got
You can do this.
Yeah.
Go, go, go.
You can make your way up here. I can't.
The vessel's leaning over so much, I don't think that he can even climb up to get out of the bridge.
They're losing her now. My feet are slipping. Going down. No, you're not. Come on. You gonna leave me? I'm not gonna leave you. Let's go.
Water is now passing freely down into the lower hold. The vessel is on our port side.
The voices of the captain and the helmsman are the last ones recorded.
I'm a gunner. No, you're not.
The ships continued to go, and there's no stopping it at that point.
In their final reports, the Coast Guard and the NTSB make more than 63 recommendations, including better training about the working of the ship's engines and better crew communication.
I know that changes will be made as a result of these recommendations, and we are seeing some already.
It's coming for the next generation of mariners, the sons, the daughters, people that are still going out there, to learn how we can prevent these accidents from happening to us that work out there, and to other people that rely on us to do this job right.
As a captain, it's one thing to be in charge of everything and be sure of yourself, but it's another thing to also be sure of yourself, to be able to be open to suggestion.
We are at Dames Point at the El Faro Memorial. This lighthouse they had built especially for this memorial. It's a beautiful park. And this is Danielle. So all these rocks were done by family friends in Maine. This is one of my favorite pictures of Danielle. And I had her saying what she told me just before she left. At sea is where I always want to be.